A very nice lady. That's a signal of finding those wounds a little bit. What do you think about the environment in Congress going forward for the President's agenda and for addressing some of the other major issues? Financial reform, immigration reform, arms control. There's a whole list of major initiatives now potentially on the agenda.
Well, this unfortunately came down to whose side are you on? It shouldn't have to be that way. Insurance companies or the American people. That's what this debate was about. I'm sad to inform you of that. But that doesn't mean that applies otherwise. I'm sure that left to a vote on, for example, the banks, which was what the education bill was about. The education bill said to the banks, it's over, the party is over for you. These banks were getting guaranteed loans. The federal government was guaranteeing the loan of a student, and yet the banks were charging exorbitant interest for a totally risk-free loan. No more. It is now direct lending, cutting out the banks as the middle person, saving the taxpayer billions of dollars, and also saving the families tens of thousands of dollars. So again, I would have hoped that there would have been Republican support for that, but they didn't vote for it because it was part of the health care bill. But I bring that up because the next one of the next big issues will be regulatory reform, the financial reform of the financial services industry, and not to paint everybody with the same brush, but never again shall Wall Street's reckless decision-making have such a devastating impact on Main Street, whether it's about jobs, whether it's about pensions, whether it's about the education of people's children, about their health care if they lose their job. This connection is devastating to middle-income families in our country, again, keeping their homes, whatever it happens to be. So we will now we passed the bill in the House. I say that over and over again, we're waiting for the Senate. We passed the bill in the House in the fall, and we're anticipating soon that we will have a bill from the Senate that will talk about regulatory reform. I was pleased that this morning it was reported in the news that Senator Shelby would support a consumer protection agency. Senator Shelby being the leading Republican on the committee, the banking committee in the Senate. We must have a consumer protection agency. They have resisted up until now. So I see some opportunity to find some common ground in a bipartisan way. And we have a responsibility to try to find our common ground. We don't go there to stake out. We go there to find our common ground for the American people. But if you can't find the common ground, you can't say, oh, never mind, we won't do anything. You just have to stand your ground and make the difference. And we wouldn't have health care reform if we said, well, if the Republicans don't come on board, then I guess children will have to continue to be denied coverage if they have a pre-existing condition, or the list goes on and on. So I'm optimistic and hopeful that on regulatory reform, because it, again, has a direct impact and is very relevant to the lives of America's working families. The immigration, that will have to begin in the Senate. We'll see what they are able to do in a bipartisan way. That will have to be bipartisan. And again, the present system is hard to sustain because you have millions of people who are not documented, but nonetheless are a very important part of the economy. And it'd be very important for them to be able to be healthy, contribute their fair share to the health of America, as well as have their children receive the education that their intellect takes them to. I don't know. I believe that the regulatory Wall Street reform will come before immigration, but in both of those cases, we should be able to find common ground. And that means that you have to yield on certain points. But you have to be ready to do that in order to take the country forward. And recognize there are different points of view throughout the country. And you have to be respectful of that as well. But you can't have it just say, if we can't find some Republican votes, then we can't have reform of the financial services industry. It has cost the taxpayer a fortune in terms of the TARP money, which is being paid back now. It's cost people individually their personal security. We cannot put the American people continue to have them be at risk without taking these important measures. And I believe that that will happen in a bipartisan way.